I have a spouse who tested positive and I have symptoms, so we're isolating and masking at home.
Yeah, we got a lot of people that are out with it right now. It's to be expected this time of the year, I guess. It's going to be a recurring thing every year.
I think so. But I got the double booster, the flu and Pfizer. I didn't have any reactions to it, so that was good.
Yeah, same for me. I got mine on the 30th. What is that, the third booster plus the flu shot?
Yes, something like that, yeah. Hi, Faye.
It was strange because I couldn't get at Alice Peck Day. Nobody could even give me an answer as to when I could get the vaccine. And then at DHMC, the earliest I could get it was November 11th. So I called CVS and they said, "Yeah, when do you want to come in?"
Wow.
Said, "How about on Friday?" "Yep, come on in. What time do you want to come in?" And they were able to facilitate it really quickly.
I had that. That's great. I had a similar experience, but it was actually at Dartmouth Health. I went on to my Dartmouth, whatever, and they had multiple times like the next day. So I think it's hit or miss if you can get in. And we live in such a small town. I knew 2 people in line. So we kind of spent our 15 minutes of recovery catching up because we hadn't seen each other in a while. But check it off our list that we got it done.
Brenda, it's good to see you.
Hi, it's great to be here. You might notice that I have a little bit of a weird image thing going on here. And so I may or may not have my video on all the time. As long as I can still participate, I will, but I've had a couple of meetings previously today and I just turned it off.
It reminds me of back in the early 70s, my father used to have me turn the rotor of the antenna.
Black and white TV.
Yes. You actually had to get up and turn the channels back then. And being the youngest, that was always my job.
I grew up without a TV, but I've heard about such things.
Okay.
Well, it's 1 o'clock. Joan, you want to kick it off?
Sure. Thank you all for being here today. I greatly appreciate it. One of the things that we try to do is a bit of an icebreaker. And today's short but sweet one is, if you happen to have one, do you have a favorite season of the year? And also introduce yourself when I call your name. Hi, Jesse.
Hi, Joanne. Should I go first?
Please.
Oh, okay. Hi, I'm Jessie Rady, Program Officer with the Couch Family Foundation. And my favorite season is spring. I just love the anticipation of the warmth and the growing seasons and all of that. So spring is my favorite.
Great. Hi, Faye. How are you today?
I am fine. And I was going to say my favorite season is the one I'm in, but I would say spring and fall, it's a toss-up between them. And I am the Employee Resource Navigator over at Alice Peck Day.
Great. Hi, Brenda.
Yeah, spring is my favorite season. I do love every season, something about every season, but spring is hands down mine. I love everything new emerging and yellow, green, and everything coming to life. Yeah.
Wonderful. And Sean?
Definitely the summer for me, although I like all of them as well, because I find things to do in every season, but summer is the best for me.
Terrific. So one of the things that we've been working on with all of our groups, and Leon and I met with the Workforce Recruitment and Retention work group this morning, and she and I both like all of the seasons and the fact that we do have seasons where we live. We just wanted to check in to make sure that everyone's aware of kind of what we've been working on. So we kicked it off with the steering committee to draft their North Star, their major area of focus. And then each work group is creating their North Star. And then today with Workforce Recruitment and Retention, we began to develop those action goals that connect with the work group's North Star and that connects with the steering committee's North Star. So I just wanted to read it out loud because this is what was agreed to at the last meeting for the North Star for this group. which is identify, develop, and support strategies to reduce barriers, such as operational costs, including cooperative procurement of services, tax breaks, zoning requirements, etc. How this helps us is we're going to generate a lot of ideas, and it's nice to be able to know, hey, does this fit with this work group, or does it fit best with another work group, as we begin to synergize our efforts and move this initiative forward. I don't know if I can see everybody on my screen. I was hoping Amy Brooks said she was going to hop into this meeting. So if you don't see her, Sean, maybe we'll skip hers and come back to it. Kim Boda has come and here she is. Yeah, I didn't say her name and she pops up. We'll just wait a second for her to happen. Amy, can you hear us? Hey, how are you?
Okay, I'm good.
Good. So our quick icebreaker, do you have a favorite season of the year?
I'm a warm weather person for sure.
Okay. We have lots of spring and summer people on this group, so that's wonderful. We happen to be talking about you because I just was reading agenda topic number 1. And I know in our discussions, we've talked a bit about Kim Boda's survey work and kind of the big ideas that link specifically to this work group. And I wondered if you could maybe quickly outline them, because we're going to be talking about our action steps and goals today. And I wondered if there's anything from that we aligned to this group.
Okay, so we already talked about what she found, how she categorized them in 4 ways. So what we did was we met again, and she wanted to, as a next step, kind of choose the low-hanging fruit centers and focus on breaking that down. So she's taking those, I think it's like 6 or 7 centers and developing a survey specific to that deeper dive.
And that was facilities related, like if they needed playground equipment or a bathroom or fencing, things like that?
It's more like bathroom, like increasing capacity and lowering costs.
Okay.
One of the trends that we found is that not nobody, but most people, like 13 of the 15 nonprofits that responded to the survey rent. Only 2 of the nonprofits own their building, and that many of the, and they're paying, like back to Sean, they're paying property tax in their lease and so on. And the for-profits, I think they all have mortgages as well. So and that's kind of like that's a 1 question sort of thing, and that's capital. Do we need to look at a team to help them with capital campaigns for the nonprofits or something? But she decided to grab the ones that could increase capacity or with low-hanging fruit to kind of because if they increase capacity to a certain amount, they can actually be more sustainable. And there was one particular center that just needed 2 huge rooms divided. So they need 2 walls and another door. So we considered that to be low-hanging fruit. And so she's so she's developing a survey to find out what the actual costs are to kind of to make effect on those 6 or 7 centers.
When you get closer, do you want me to reach back out to the agency in Vermont that supports women in the workforce that said they might be able to do construction estimation cost, or did you find someone else to do that?
We did not find someone else to do that. I think we're at the step ahead of that, which is kind of like what do they know about the project and what are the next steps from there? Let me know
if you want me to reach out.
What is the project specifically, and what would the impact be? Like what would the what would is it for infants, toddlers, preschool, how much more revenue could you generate from that investment?
Great. Any questions about the work that Amy's been doing with Kim? Seems like we're getting a lot of good information from that to be able to use. So that's great. I met with Allison Chisholm, Tracy Hutchins, Anne Duncan Cooley did not attend, but Anne is part of the Grafton Regional Development Corporation, of which Allison is doing some work with, and talk just about in general what the Grafton Regional Development Corporation does, what some other similar organizations in Vermont and other places in New Hampshire do. And the outcome of that was I asked Allison to generate a list about ways that organizations like GDRC and others, GRDC and others, could support professionals in the field. So rather than us generating asks, they could generate ways that they could support grants that they might have, helping people with a business plan, which is something that we've talked a bit about. We talked a bit about, there were some other barriers that I can't think of off the top of my head that throughout the different work groups, people had said, wouldn't it be great if, and wouldn't it be great if this? So I thought if they consider themselves a resource, they could lift for us the resources they could provide. And then at least get that out to the professionals in the field to use them if they think that they want to use them or not, or just get the word out as to what is out there at this time. So it was a kind of a general conversation just about that organization and in different ways to support people in the field. And Allison is going to follow up on that. It kind of comes through two different places. It came through talking about business plans under recruitment and retention, but then also flowed into some other work that they do. So I'll share it with both work groups when she gets that information to me. And then, Sean, did you want to talk about anything with the tax legislation update? You mentioned a bit about what Senator Prentice was working on.
Yes, I met with her this morning, actually, and she expects that it's not even open yet for them to enter legislation, and it won't be until December. She has reached out to Senator Bradley just to coordinate so that both of them sign it at relatively the same time. And we've got a number of state reps that have already lined up to sign it, so we're in pretty good shape there. But let's say it'll be at least December, I guess, before the Senate is going to be allowed to enter bills. So that's the latest on that. Oh, one more thing. New Futures has what they call the Momnibus bill, which has a number of issues to deal with childcare and other things of that nature. This will not be included in that property tax legislation. As we saw, they were not all that supportive of the concept. It's my understanding from Senator Prentice they're not going to oppose it, but they're not going to go out of their way to support it either, which is unfortunate. But it is what it is. They're going to try to, my understanding is, according to her, they're going to try to pass one comprehensive bill that has a whole bunch of things in there, and those are always it's challenging any legislation passed when you have something that big that has that many pieces. It's even more complicated. So it'd be interesting to see how that approach fares in the legislature, but we'll wait till it actually comes out. What it looks like Senator Whitley's going to be the prime sponsor for that.
Great. Elizabeth, I don't see here today. I was just curious about any information on the River Valley Club ECE project that you talked about a few months ago. I wasn't sure where they are in that process at all. And the last time we met, we started talking about the consumer cooperative concept. So a way to get the average cost for care in New Hampshire. I've done a little research on that. I think that UNH is working, well, I know that they are working on a research grant, and in the next month or so should be releasing data. So perhaps some of that research will include compensation and benefits and what that might look like if it exists at all. And then maybe because they are focusing on the Upper Valley, we can get data that's more relative to where we live versus the whole state of New Hampshire. They also, are looking at Vermont too. So we haven't lost that thread. We just don't have the data yet that we can say X amount is the average hourly rate or anything like that yet. And I did put in a link from Let's Grow Kids because they have done a lot of research and quite a bit of their data is located right up on their website. The other business that I wanted to talk a bit about is now that we have this North Star, in our R&R meeting today, we started talking about specific actions that we want to take as a group to support models. We have, for example, Sean has talked about from his leadership position, the ECE project and the RFI. And what I would like to do, Sean, is if you could just give an update on where you are with the RFI for that project.
So the RFI has been launched. It's out there. We have 2 different parties that have logged into the system and listed as vendors that are looking at it right now. I've had phone calls from 2 others, and I pointed them in that direction, but they haven't gone in to sign up yet as a potential vendor to look at it more deeply. But that's open for 90 days. They're due on January 13th. The deadline to ask questions of us is November 13th, and our response is November 23rd. Those all have to be through the electronic portal. All of you can access that if you wish to. It's been sent out to all providers, I believe. Right, Joanne?
Yes, I did put it on the listserv.
So it's available to go, and anybody who's on this committee can certainly take a look at that. You can see what the RFI looks like, and you can also see the questions and responses that go along with those. As of this morning, there were no questions yet, but I expect to get those soon. Amy, I'm probably going to need some help from you on some of the technical questions that might get asked. And then when we're done that, we need to review these. And anybody who wants to help me do that, I would appreciate the assistance with that. I presume Joanne is going to do that. And anybody else who wants, I know it's a sticky situation for some folks because some of them are providers and there's concerns about that, but anybody who wants to help review that would be helpful. I expect to do that on a rolling basis. So if we get proposals, this is not a sealed bid process. So when we get proposals, I expect that we will do interviews with those folks and review those proposals as we move along. If they're submitted earlier than January 13th, which I suspect may be the case with some of them. So that's moving along. It's out there. We're waiting for the responses back, and I think that's the latest update.
A quick question for you, Sean. Have you established the review criteria?
It's pretty hard to do that because it's not like a bid. So if you have you seen the RFI yet?
I don't think, no, I haven't. I've seen that. So 2 things. One, yes, I saw that it was put out and I have a link, but I have not opened the link.
That's fine. It's fine. So when you take,
I'm glad to hear you say that we can just take a look, because I actually thought if I clicked on it, it would look like I was trying to apply, and I wanted to be clear that I wasn't trying to apply.
No, that's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, you can take a look at it, and you can see again all the questions and answers that are there. We commonly get these on bids and things. A lot of people will sign on, but they're just looking to see what the proposals are, what the questions are, and so there's no commitment from you if you wish to do that. And I would encourage you to do so.
Do you expect that you will, I guess my question, it relates to sort of equitable review, like everyone should be considered by the same criteria. And so that's what I mean when I ask if you had sort of established review criteria.
We normally do, and it's built right into that. So when you apply, you know what it is, but this is an RFI. It's a totally different process. And to try to build that in there is a bit challenging because people have to develop their proposal. They literally need to work with us and ask questions. So it's a different process. So it's not cut and dry like that for this.
But I would add, if there are questions or criterion that this group with your expertise think we should use as a lens, please email Sean and me, and I'd be happy to create a document based on if you were sitting there at a round table, what might you be looking for? What kind of, and also not only give me the questions, but give me the answers. So, you know, we often do this when I interview people. We do a round table, we develop our questions, and then we might say, what's one word that you're looking for? You know, and someone might say, I'm looking for the person to say teamwork rather than I, or I'm looking for somebody who really uses the word collaboration a lot, or shared vision. So I would personally, if I'm going to be kind of a tertiary person reviewing some of these, I would love to know from your perspectives what you might look for and what words you might be looking for as people are doing this enrollment. Just shoot them my way and I can, you know, create a Google Doc with them.
The real thing we're going to be looking at is there's a number of things. One is, can they staff up? Can they meet the requirements that are listed in there? There are some requirements. What experience they have in this type of environment, especially on this type of scale that we're talking about here. And what's their plan? Is it a solid plan that they're proposing to be able to accomplish this task? And again, they're all outlined in there. And it's not like a bid or asking for someone to construct a street, put in a water and sewer main, this many linear feet, this type of pipe with specifications and all that. It's a very different type of process. We're looking for a partnership, and it has to be to some degree open.
And what I've heard from the conversation is the importance of having a philosophy of being both student and family centered as a center. And also, what would it look like, since this is a program that would have a sliding scale? What does that look like? This is a program where we're trying to support day, but also evening shifts. So children are developmentally very different during the day than during the evening. So how are they approaching where the child is when the child is coming into the center? And I think what's the overall experience, because families are entrusting their most precious thing, their children, to be there during that time. So is that kind of their philosophy? I think there must be some kind of statement in there. Brenda, you were unmuted.
Yeah, I was just thinking these are your criteria. The things you just listed sound to me like the criteria by which you will be assessing each one. And that's all I was asking. I just sort of was curious, like, what is your measure for moving forward with someone in any kind of a partnership? And in various different processes and different jobs that I've done, in where more than one person is being considered for either a pot of money or a position. In order to ensure equity, there's sort of some kind of scoring rubric. So say you could potentially have up to 20 points, and you would, like, one would be, does your philosophy match? Does your, are you, I don't know, like, in other words, all those things that the two of you just described would be part of it. And then they could either score low because none of those boxes are checked, or they could score really high. And then that helps whoever is making the decision, either this group or some subset of this group would have some actual concrete information on which to make decisions.
I would love to draft something and then bring it back to the next meeting and have all of your eyes on it. Because you'd have more life and professional experiences than I would, but I'd be happy to start it based on what we just shared. And then that way also, when Sean's talking to the city, we have professionals in the field and parents and other people invested in the rubric. And that gives us security when we are looking at selecting a certain group as to why they fit kind of the vision of what this would be. So why don't I draft that, and I'd be happy to share that at our next meeting. Is that fine with you, Sean?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay. Great idea. Thank you.
So I just need to know, though, who wants to help and review those. And I understand there's some folks that may not want to be about Brenda Perfect. It would be helpful to have people in the childcare sector, because I obviously am not my area of specialty.
And I'm with the older, so I would appreciate that help as well.
I can tell either Liz Swanton or I would probably be happy to be a, business nonprofit representative on that. I'll talk with her this afternoon.
Okay, great.
Would you email me either way?
Yep.
Let us know. Let Sean and I know. Okay. And these are just kind of the action steps I was hoping that we would be talking about today. Like, if we have these things going, what are our action steps internally? Another thing that Lebanon has done through Sean's leadership is we talked a little bit about it, but looking at the zoning ordinances and regulations to make it easier for childcare businesses to start. And if that goes through, how can we spread that word to other locations that if Lebanon can do it, why can't other places do it? This falls a little bit under our advocacy work group as well, but I think it does look under facilities and models for other places to consider, to not reinvent the wheel, but to say, wow, Lebanon put time and effort into this. Let's look at what they've done and compare that to what we're doing as a city or a town. And I was wondering if there's any other thoughts this group might have as far as directions that we can focus on, certain passions that you might have, passion projects that become strategic goals under this work group that you've been thinking about. Well, what if we spent some time looking into this or that? Anything that might have come to mind that we want to put down as areas of focus or goals?
The one thing, I have no idea if it sits here, but I was talking to Christina D'Alessandro about wages and about the cliff, because we've been doing a lot of work directly with centers, and we have for the most part, people are not needing insurance because they're on their spouse's insurance. So there's only like this little subset of people, of staff that need insurance and need support for insurance. The other thing we were wondering as far as the wage piece goes is, what is the dollar amount per hour? Like, what's the gap between what we're paying now in the Upper Valley and what, forget like the rest of the state, but in the Upper Valley, what are we paying and what is the wage that's going to drop them off of their benefits? Because we do have people that are here that are mission driven, working in this work, and it fits their lifestyle because they need to stay under a certain dollar amount within their family. And I hadn't thought about that, but it goes by your family income. So you divide that by your number of hours, take your salary of what you made, and you come up with your household dollar per hour is what we were looking at, like just scratching on a piece of paper. And we were looking at like the family of 3 is $36 an hour total between the two people. You can't make more than $36 an hour or your children lose their health insurance, the CHIP. So a single parent, which we have that's another subset of our group, single parents can make $26 an hour, no more. And that drops them off the CHIP. That could be closer to 24, and they lose other benefits, heating, fuel assistance, blah, 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 things like that, housing assistance. So we're on that cusp of that right now. So, it's like you either pay $19, $20 an hour or you pay 40, because they can't live between the two. So we're trying to figure out, are we already there? Like, have we reached that kind of sweet spot? And as soon as Brenda hears something about their alignment with wages, you're going to tell us, right? And then
absolutely. We don't have to. So I wanted to wait until you were done, and then also, like, I want to just share a couple of things, because we've been thinking about this for about, I don't know, I'd say it's been part of the conversation legislatively for the past 3 years. So, but I want you to be able to finish first. So go ahead.
Oh, that's it. Is like, if we're going to advocate and really work to work on this wage piece, I'm in the Upper Valley. I'm concerned about the Upper Valley right now, where we are. Then, I'm going to talk to my board next month and see. I think we're going to end up doing a wage survey, tuition survey every year, so we know where we are every year. And if we're at that high teens for an entry level position, where, like, what does that look like? So where do they have to go before they drop off the benefit cliff? A lead teacher, and then they're done. Like, they can't afford to be any more than a lead. Our directors are at this $26. So if you're a director and you are a single parent, then your child loses their health insurance. So you can't make more than $26 an hour as a director, I guess is what I'm saying. Like that, keeping that in mind when we're looking to build wages.
So it's always such an interesting conversation. And I feel like a lot of things that have informed early childhood across the country, really, for my entire professional career, has been like, comes from this scarcity mindset. And we're almost at a pivot point, and like hopefully we're closer than not, where in fact what we want to do is fix the system so that there is no cliff, and so that people are making enough that they can afford all the benefits that they need. And so that is really through that lens, because those of us on this side of the river have said to legislators like, hey, we're creating a benefits cliff. And so that's creating like sort of maybe you know how sometimes when you have this great program and then there's sort of the unintended consequences, we're like, hey, unintended consequence alert. And so that's really keen, like that's in the minds, like we've made that public, and the legislators, I say we. When I say we, I don't mean me at Let's Grow Kids. I mean we collectively in Vermont, all the ECE voices who are at the table, including the Child Development Division, which is pretty exciting to have like the state arm of what we're doing at the table and advocating. But so that's a piece of it. The other one, the other piece, which you referred to, Amy, in this sort of compensation package with it advancing as a profession, in Vermont, so full disclosure, I serve on the board of Vermont AEYC. And so I have sometimes, you know, sort of information that about projects we're working on before they go public. And we have been working on advancing as a profession for 4 or 5, I think we're in year 5 now. And sorry about my bandwidth today, it's a little crazy. So I look like, you know, black and white TV from the 70s. But part of the work of being recognized as a profession is having a compensation package that is commensurate with the value of what we do. So, you know, commensurate with being professionals. And that is it's already created. I have laid eyes on it, and it's not out for public consumption yet. So it is here. And now what's happening is the people who are working on that's not a project on which I work. I work more in the governance wing of things at Vermont AEYC. But the people who are working on it are in conversation with higher ed. Like, okay, so how does higher ed get us to the professionalized piece? And also with state government to say, how does this connect? Like, how does it all connect? How do we put all the pieces together? And once a system is adequately funded, not have to worry about a benefits cliff. Like, how do we make the benefits cliff be a thing of the past that truly was from our place of scarcity? So all the pieces, like all the wheels with the cogs, like are now, I feel like, at least semi-formed, but they haven't come together yet. When they do, like seriously, we're gonna be shouting it from the rooftops, and I'm happy. Like, it will thrill me to no end to be able to share that with y'all, and I will definitely share as soon as I have something to share. So I wish I could say it's today, but it's not yet.
That's incredibly exciting. Thanks for the work for everyone on that. I'm not familiar with the different acronyms. What's Vermont AEYC?
Vermont Association for the Education of Young Children. There's a National Association for the Education of Young Children, and that is the largest, it's not just the largest, it's sort of the most significant professional association for early childhood educators in the country. And then states can choose to have an affiliate. New Hampshire's affiliate was active until last year, and we now welcome, I think New York, Connecticut, Maine, and Vermont all welcome folks who used to be under the New Hampshire umbrella to join us. And not because we think you need to be a part of Vermont AUIC, but we want you to have a home. And so we are the state affiliate, and we just held our 50th annual conference last week. And you know, it's one thing to sort of be a name on paper, but we actually offer real things like tuition payment for degree programs, you know, up through bachelor's, and education loan repayment services, and all sorts of things, like just tons of resources. So that's what state affiliates do for the profession. And we are currently the leader, and potentially will be the first adopter of being recognized as a profession, because forever and a day, as Amy can attest, you know, we've gone by lots of different titles: childcare provider, daycare provider, teacher. I mean, I can't even think of all the things, but we realized we had to become a unified voice in order to affect change, because otherwise, when you show up and talk to legislators, they're like, who are you? Why are you here? Literally, in Montpelier about 10 years ago, some legislators said to a group of early childhood educators, we think you have a really good cause, but nobody's going to listen to you unless you come unified. And so we're like, okay, I guess we better get our acts like officially together. And seriously, that was a big, that's when all the all the people, all the parts, I'm sort of paraphrasing loosely, but all the sort of ECE people in Vermont were like, all right, let's decide what we're going to call ourselves. We are early childhood educators. Our profession is early childhood education. We have a brain in our head, and we are worthy of compensation for this very important work we do. That's probably really overly simplifying it, but that has been driving the work from all the organizations and agencies for at least a decade now.
Well, thank you for that information. I also want to make sure that in our language, we have mixed language based on each work group who's in it. So I know the steering committee used to be the Early Childhood and Care Initiative, I think, Amy, and we just changed it through the steering committee to be Early Childhood Education Initiative here through Vital Communities. So I've been really listening to the language and asking a lot of questions, and want to make sure that that language is reflective in our North Stars and our action goals too. So thanks for sharing that. Amy, did you put in the chat that you're going to have to leave real quick? Did you want to talk about the HB?
Yeah, I have to go.
Yep.
New Hampshire has a committee working on a House bill that will kind of ask the entire state of New Hampshire to come up with one kind of streamlined guidance for family childcare. So, you know, the planning and zoning boards and the fire departments and stuff kind of know how to navigate family childcare, because right now some of them are holding them to the public school level. You go to the next town, they don't do anything, that you can do whatever you want. The next town, you know, is trying to micromanage you, like the licensing department, and they don't really know their role around family childcare. So HB 230 is being worked on right now. I also want to mention that Week of the Young Child, Joanne, is based out of NAEYC. So that kind of, it's that connective tissue. Like the Week of the Young Child NAEYC's project is that we're nationally recognized, the Week of the Young Child. Vermont has been rocking, their Vermont AEYC chapter has rocked the world since the beginning. And New Hampshire is now we do have an attempt to come back. That Maine has a part-time person now who's working to try to kind of see how New Hampshire chapter would fit into the New Hampshire landscape of childcare. Right now, it's not like a completely active chapter, but that work has started. And then we had sent a bunch of people to the Vermont AEYC conference last week.
You mentioned that.
Yeah, it's always an amazing conference. But all right, so I have to hop, and
yep.
I will catch you all later.
Thanks. Take care.
Bye, Amy.
So one of the things I wanted to swing it back to you, Sean, a bit as the co-chair, chair, as you're listening to the conversations, are there specific targeted goals or action steps you would like to see this group work together on under the facilities and models umbrella that you've heard percolate for the last bit of time?
So just two things. The only thing that we haven't made any progress on is, and we talked about this, was the consumer cooperative, because we don't have the numbers yet. That's our only task that we have not done. And then back up to two, and Amy mentioned this about funding, some capital. GRDC certainly is one route for capital. Evernorth has capital right now for housing. They're putting that together. We might want to talk to them about to see if they could do something similar for childcare, provide capital to providers to be able to, on that lower level, be able to expand their facilities. That may be an option.
Who is that? I'm not familiar.
Evernorth has a $10 million fund for housing. They provide housing for workforce housing and low income types of housing, and they lend that money out at low interest rates. Mascoma Bank's a key partner with that. So that
you're connecting that with centers that might, or homes that might want to do facilities renovations.
Yep, build a bathroom, something like that, to expand their operations, or even somewhat larger operations that are nonprofit, they want to expand their operations. And of course, we have the community loan fund as well. I don't know what those interest rates look like right now. But usually those projects, those funding mechanisms, a lot of times they're for larger projects and they're for pieces of that, not the whole project. Like the Evernorth provides $750,000. You might have a $5 or $6 or even a $10 million project. They'll provide $750,000 in capital, and you got to match that with other capital that you might have available to you. But we're really looking for these smaller types of operations. It sounds like in a lot of cases to be able to expand that, and we need to see what we can do on that. So that's a new area for us. It's not one of our listed categories, but it's something that we can start taking a look at. As the others are moving through their processes.
So create and document different types of funding sources.
Yes.
Okay, I'm just trying to get the language.
The banks are key partners with the Evernorth and the housing projects. So we might be able to get them to focus some attention on this. And Julian, you were not there, but we had the meeting with the corporate council, and they were very interested in early childhood education and childcare issue. That was number 1 and 2, housing, and that were important to them. And that's the banks. And then of course they have the money, the capital to be able to loan. Is
the council that you said, corporate council, is that the Vital Communities?
Yes.
Corporate council?
It
okay.
is.
So it has the corporate council, then all these offshoots, of which one is the steering committee for this initiative?
Correct.
Okay, thanks.
So Sarah Kobolinski is the rep to the corporate council that's on our steering committee. So we should talk to her about that to see if we can find some capital.
Yes, Amy and I met with a person from Mascoma Bank a month ago to talk about funding sources. And one of the things that circled back is the need to have a business plan.
Right.
And I'm looking down because I always get the letters wrong. GRDC, based on the conversation we had Friday, has people who might be able to help people with the business plan. So it's almost linking these different organizations together so that if you are an educator in the field, it's like one-stop shopping. It makes it easier for people to navigate and jump over these barriers because they don't have time to go on these different websites and figure everything out. So perhaps an action step from this group is removing one of those barriers and creating a document of useful tools, resources. Who do I contact if I don't know how to do a business plan? Then who do I go to after I get my business plan? Who's early childhood educator friendly, who can kind of talk my talk, but also give me that other lens to help set things up. And I think that also connects with Tracy Hutchins' work with the Upper Valley Business Alliance to give people mentorship, because my field is education, and it wasn't until I was becoming a superintendent that business was part of that experience. You might have a wonderful passion and ability to be an educator in this field, but business might not be something you've had an experience in. So you need someone to kind of hold your hand and help you navigate that. Also, are there similar tools that we can all use, like QuickBooks or whatever it is that's out there, and deliver that training at a time that's meaningful and reasonable for people who are in this field that work 12 to 15 hours a day? Like, how do we get that into their lives without overburdening them with them? Once again, it's like lifting and helping. So if this group has ideas in regard to how we can make those connections, I think that might be a good way to head. Brenda?
So we already have a pretty well-established pipeline for such things and resources in Vermont. And I'm wondering if it would be helpful to for me to just send you a list.
Yes, please.
Because we get trainings through like First Children's Finance and Vermont Small Business Development Corporation, and those are available statewide. And Vermont Community Loan Fund has helped countless startups and expansions to really either create a business plan or strengthen their business plan. There are a bunch of ways that Vermont, and we figured that out, like literally, again, the collective, we figured that out. I think initially through the STARS program, because one of the things that programs had to do was submit they had to make a report about their business plan. And some people would be like, what do you mean my business plan? And we'd be like, therein lies the problem. Like, you are actually operating a business. This thing you love to do, it's a business. And so that's when we realized, oh my gosh, we need some tools and some templates, even just to get people started. Like, here's a spreadsheet where you can enter revenue and expenses. Anyway, so I can send you a list. I'll send that to you, Joanne.
Please do, because it's kind of buzzing around with each group that I go to, and that's fantastic to share that. And I can share that with others like Allison who are at the meeting and maybe make their work a little less heavy instead of reinventing the wheel all over again.
And so I will be clear that everything that I am familiar with is Vermont. It's like I imagine there are some of these places that serve folks outside of Vermont, but like the Vermont small business folks, they're Vermont centric, and Vermont Community Loan Fund, they're Vermont centric. And so, it would definitely serve all the Vermont, and is already serving the Vermont programs, but I don't know about their capacity for New Hampshire.
Yeah, so we have Julie McConnell, who was part of our group. She's the one who's the lead person, Child Care and Community Services from the New Hampshire Community Loan Fund. She's the right contact for us to work through that and see what program she has available.
Right, and we can use this platform, which is by state, which is Upper Valley Initiative, so that if people go to the Vital Communities website, which we want to be a very helpful, useful site, to have this information there as well, whether you're from Vermont or New Hampshire, and the contacts who you can reach out to for assistance. And I know some people flow through Amy and some people flow through someone else, but if this could be anybody who's interested in the field, hops onto the site and gets connected to where they need to go, I think that would be of great benefit, because it is complicated, it is confusing. And we want to, once again, open the doors however we can to increase the professionals in this field and make it as easy as we can for them to be able to join others and help support our children and our families. So other ideas that you might have for goals or strategies that we wanted to work on as a group? Because what I'll do is I'll pull this all together before our next meeting, and you'll see it in the draft agenda of here's what I think we discussed, and then you can take that and structure it however you want to structure it. But I do want to capture it. Otherwise, we'll forget that there's a section of the work we're supposed to do because we're all so busy doing other things. Any other business that you wanted to talk about, or thoughts or ideas for the meeting today? Yeah, Brenda.
I hesitate to raise my hand yet again, but I had seen at the very near the bottom of the agenda, it said find out what LGK knows about cost of care. And I just wanted to report out that so the state of Vermont hired the RAND Corporation to do a cost an in-depth cost analysis study so that we really know what kind of money we're asking for when we ask for public investment. Because again, everything we're doing here, we're like connect to hard data. So nobody can come back and say, well, that feels good. It's like, this is connected to real like math and science, folks. So you can like feel confident in making these investments. So that the RAND Corporation is expected to publish the preliminary findings in December of this year. And then they have told the state of Vermont that they're going to publish their final report in January of 2023. And I'll tell you, like, we're sitting on the edge of our seat because we want to know those numbers. And then that's really going to help the all the people, all the policy writers to know what to put in the bill, like what is going to be in the ask for public investment in this coming legislative session. So those numbers can't come soon enough for us. They're not here yet, but like December is not that far away, and I will share them with you. Absolutely. They'll be public knowledge, but you know, I'll make sure that we all know what we're talking about.
That would be fantastic, because in my mind, it also links with the Couch Foundation's support for research at UNH. And Brooke Freeland has said that that will be coming out soon. And part of that research is along those lines of all the, many different aspects of ECE in the Upper Valley. So wouldn't that be awesome if we had all of that diverging, accurate, hard data heading our direction right around the time where we're going to be springboarding this forward. So if the same thing, if I receive that, I will send that out to all of the folks in this initiative too. But that would be fantastic to have that information. That's so exciting. It really is. Sean, anything else that you wanted to add to this meeting?
I don't have anything. I've covered it all, I believe.
Okay. My computer likes to shut down, so I needed to wake it up a little bit. I'm just wanting to say our next meeting is going to be, it's at the top. I didn't put it at the top. When is our next meeting? It's going to be a 6 o'clock one, right? Because we rotate.
Yeah, let me just. I don't see it on my calendar for whatever reason.
Is it in November, perhaps, on a Wednesday night? I have a November 2nd at 6 p.m.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm not going to be able to attend that because we're in budget season and all the fun that goes along with that.
I hear you. Do you still want to hold it at that time and have me facilitate, or do you want to reschedule?
Yeah, no, I think you should facilitate it. I'll just give you the updates that I have. That'll be fine.
And is that my understanding that that's our next meeting? But today is the 17th, and that will be the next one. And what I will try to do in my list of things to do, so I'll draft the agenda in advance, Sean, and get it out to you to take a look at it. I will take kind of these big ideas and put them into targeted goals for everyone to consider and talk about. And then the third thing I'll do is I will draft a criterion or a rubric for the ECE Concept Center and get that out to folks and share it to get your feedback on it.
Yeah, so if we can get that final, I'll let you work on that on the second. Yeah. If we can get that finalized on the second, I'd like to publish that so the people that if we're going to have criteria, they know what it is.
So I would appreciate people's help if I push it out in between now and then to take a look at it. And I think the more user-friendly we make it, the better, because we'll have different people around that table with different professional experiences. And if we're too jargony, it's going to get lost on some people rather than others. So we want to be specific, but not too jargony that we confuse people with it too.
And just one more thing with that, when you do that, if you do want to weigh it, you want to, the system has a scoring system by numbers. If you want to give it the weight, when I load it into the system, I can do that. So if you want to do that as well on that date, that would be great if you choose to do that.
Does your system use like a 1 through 5 or a 1 to 3?
Up to 100, 1 to 100. You can set it up either way. I can set it up either way.
I find the lower the value overall, people can get specific. If you go past 5, people don't know what 5 means. Even a scale of 1 to 3, like meets, you know, doesn't meet or exceeds. People can gravitate toward that, but then people wonder what a 2, 3, 4 is in between sometimes. But let's work on that as a team, and we'll get that to you. Sound great?
Sounds good to me.
Fantastic. All right. Thank you, everyone, for your time. Have a great rest of your week. Take care.